She thought it was just another routine business meeting, a chance to step into a powerful executive's seat and prove herself. But what started as an ordinary day quickly spiraled into a whirlwind of surprises she never saw coming. The moment she sat down in the sleek, polished chair at the head of the boardroom table, she felt a surge of confidence, but little did she know, the real story was about to unfold. Across the room sat Marcus Allen, the black CEO whose calm demeanor barely hinted at the empire he quietly commanded. Known for his sharp mind and unshakable poise, Marcus had built something extraordinary, but no one outside his inner circle truly understood the scale of his success. And now, as she glanced around the room, she noticed subtle signs that things were far from ordinary. In that instant, she realized she wasn't just sitting in any CEO's chair. She was in the heart of an empire. She hadn't imagined a global airline, owned entirely by the man in front of her. Her assumptions, her expectations, everything she thought she knew about power and influence, were about to be challenged. And just as she began to grasp the truth, Marcus leaned back, smiled faintly, and asked a question that would change everything. She hesitated, her hand hovering over her notebook as if the right words could anchor her confidence. Marcus's smile didn't waver, and that calm, controlled energy made the room feel smaller, almost claustrophobic. She tried to steady her thoughts, wondering how a man so unassuming could command an empire that spanned continents, fleets of airplanes, and thousands of employees. There was a quiet power in the way he observed everything, like he could read her mind without her saying a word. As she looked around the boardroom, she noticed framed photographs on the walls, images of private jet inaugurations, ribbon ceremonies, and international conferences she had never heard of. Each picture told a story of success, ambition, and risk-taking. It was clear that Marcus had built this airline from the ground up, turning challenges into opportunities and rivals into allies. And somehow, she had walked straight into the middle of it without even realizing it. Questions swirled in her mind. How had she never known about him? How had someone so young and driven created something so massive? The air in the room felt heavier, charged with unspoken possibilities. Marcus leaned forward, his eyes locking with hers, and said something so unexpected that she froze, caught between disbelief and curiosity. Unsure of what her next move should be, her mind raced as Marcus's words hung in the air, each one heavy with implication. She had walked into the room thinking this was a simple negotiation, maybe even a chance to outshine someone else. But now, the scale of what she was dealing with hit her like a jolt. Marcus wasn't just any CEO, he was the mastermind behind an entire airline empire, and somehow she had underestimated him completely. Outside the boardroom, the hum of the airport below reminded her of the stakes. Planes were taking off, crews were coordinating, and passengers were trusting this airline with their journeys. Every decision Marcus made rippled through countless lives. And yet, in this quiet room, the tension felt intimate, almost personal. She realized that the power dynamics here weren't just about money. They were about perception, influence, and control. That at the same time, she could feel the pressure building, from her own colleagues, waiting for her to make a move, to assert herself. Their eyes, though unseen, seemed to hover over her shoulder, measuring her reaction, questioning whether she truly belonged in this world of high-stakes leadership. Marcus leaned back, folding his hands calmly, but there was a flicker in his gaze, a hint of challenge. He wasn't just testing her knowledge or courage, he was testing her instincts, and she had no idea which direction this challenge would take, or how far it would push her. Her pulse quickened as the minutes stretched on, each second amplifying the weight of the moment. Marcus's presence seemed to fill the entire room, and she felt both drawn to his calm authority and wary of it. Every instinct told her that this wasn't just a meeting, it was a test, a carefully orchestrated challenge that could either elevate her career or expose her vulnerability in front of everyone watching. She tried to steady her breathing, to focus on the facts, but the magnitude of the situation kept pulling her attention in 1,000 directions. The airline wasn't just big, it was a global force, a web of schedules, logistics, finances, and reputations. Marcus had built something almost untouchable, yet here she was, sitting in his chair, a newcomer in a world she barely understood. The tension between them grew palpable. She noticed the slight way he leaned forward when she hesitated, the way his eyes flicked toward the documents she held as if reading her thoughts. Outside the glass walls of the boardroom, the airport buzzed with life, oblivious to the storm brewing above it. Suddenly, Marcus's voice broke the silence, calm but edged with intensity. "There's something you need to know before you make your next move," he said, his gaze locking with hers. The words sent a chill through her, hinting at secrets, risks, and decisions that could change everything. And just like that, the room seemed to shrink, leaving only her, him, and the choice she hadn't yet realized she had to make. She swallowed hard, her mind racing, as Marcus leaned back with a measured calm that only made the tension thicker. "There's one more thing," he continued, his voice low but commanding. "This airline isn't just mine. There are investors, board members, and partnerships you don't even know exist. And some of them, they're not exactly friendly." Her Eyes widened. What she had assumed was a single-layered challenge, a powerful CEO testing her, was suddenly a labyrinth of hidden agendas and unspoken rivalries. Every decision she made from this point forward could trigger consequences far beyond her understanding. The chair beneath her suddenly felt heavier, like the weight of the entire airline rested on her shoulders. As if on cue, her phone buzzed. Softly, a text from a colleague, warning her of a sudden corporate crisis on one of the airline's major international routes. Flights were delayed, top executives were panicking, and whispers of sabotage were circulating among staff. She realized this wasn't just about proving herself to Marcus. It was about surviving in a cutthroat world where one wrong move could unravel everything. Marcus watched her reaction with an almost imperceptible smile, as if he had anticipated her growing anxiety. "You're going to have to make choices," he said, "and soon. Choices that will test more than your skills, they'll test your instincts." The air in the room felt electric, and she knew in that instant that nothing about this situation was simple. The stakes had just doubled, and the clock was ticking. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of every decision pressing down on her. The crisis on the international route had escalated faster than anyone anticipated, and every department was looking to her for guidance. Marcus's calm eyes bore into her, a silent challenge that pushed her to step fully into the role she had only imagined she could handle. With a steady voice, she began issuing clear directives, coordinating teams, and making calls that could determine the fate of hundreds of passengers and millions of dollars. Marcus watched her, nodding subtly, his respect growing with every decisive move she made. For the first time, she understood that the chair she had taken was not just a symbol of authority, it was a test of judgment, courage, and resilience. By the time the crisis began to stabilize, she had proven not only to Marcus but to herself that she belonged in the world of high-stakes leadership. Just as relief started to settle in, Marcus leaned forward with a grin that was equal parts pride and mischief. "There's one final thing," he said, sliding a sealed envelope across the table. She hesitated, then opened it and, her eyes widened in shock. Inside were the plans for a brand new airline merger, one that would change the industry entirely. She wasn't just a bystander anymore. She was the key player. She sat back, still processing the revelation, the envelope heavy with possibilities. What had started as a test of courage had transformed into a turning point for her career. Marcus watched quietly, a proud yet quiet smile on his face, as if he had known all along that she was capable of rising to the challenge. She realized that this experience had taught her more than any classroom or boardroom ever could. Leadership wasn't about power alone, it was about decision-making under pressure, trust, and the courage to act when everything is uncertain. Over the next few days, she worked closely with Marcus, learning the intricacies of the airline and the industry's delicate balance. Each decision she made reinforced her confidence, and she discovered a sense of fulfillment she hadn't anticipated. The crisis that had seemed insurmountable now felt like a stepping stone, a test that had prepared her for even greater challenges ahead. As the airline stabilized and operations returned to normal, she reflected on the journey from walking into that boardroom unaware of the empire she had entered, to becoming a central part of it. Marcus's final words lingered with her, "True leadership shows when the stakes are highest." She smiled, knowing she had passed that test, but also that the world of business and life was full of surprises yet to come.